I always believed that my wedding day would be the pinnacle of joy, a day when every moment shimmered with promise, and every heartbeat echoed the love I had long dreamed of. I envisioned soft laughter among family and friends, tender glances exchanged in secret, and a quiet euphoria as I walked down the aisle to join the man I adored. I, Livia Santoro, had spent countless hours preparing for that day with unwavering hope. At 29, I nurtured dreams of a future filled with light, creativity, and an abiding love. Yet, that morning, as the early autumn sun filtered through the lace curtains of my bridal suite in an ancient Tuscan villa, a bitter, almost shattering sorrow mingled with the sweetness of anticipation. I stood before an antique mirror, adjusting my ivory gown for what felt like the millionth time. Every fold and delicate detail had been chosen with care, a gown inherited in spirit from the woman who had taught me to dream, my late mother. The veil, soft as a whisper and adorned with intricate lace, framed my face in fragile beauty. But even as the golden rays of dawn illuminated my features, I could not banish the heaviness that weighed upon my heart. I felt as if a storm raged within me, a mix of anticipation for what was to come and a deep, inexplicable dread. The reflection staring back at me was that of a bride. Yes, but also of a woman burdened by unspoken fears and a sense of loneliness that no amount of beauty could disguise. "Livia, you look absolutely enchanting," my mother cooed as she entered the room. Her eyes shone with pride and a touch of quiet concern that I had learned to read over the years. She moved gracefully to my side, adjusting the veil with a gentle hand and murmuring softly, "Today is your day, my darling. Let nothing dim your light." Her words, though filled with love, seemed to echo a caution that I could not quite decipher. I smiled weakly, grateful for her support yet haunted by an unnameable sorrow that clung to me like a shadow. Soon, my best friend and maid of honor, Serena, burst into the room, her excitement infectious as she reminded me that the limousine was waiting. "Come on, Livia, it's time to step into your new life," she exclaimed, pulling my hand and guiding me out of the bridal suite. As I followed her down the long corridor of the villa, lined with fresh roses and softly flickering candlelight, I tried to push away the creeping melancholy. I had imagined this day for so long, the gentle murmur of loved ones, the delicate strains of music, the tender vows exchanged beneath ancient arches. Yet beneath it all, a dark undercurrent pulsed, as if warning me that not every dream is destined to be perfect. We arrived at the villa amid a gentle flurry of guests in elegant attire. The estate, a grand relic set among towering cypress trees and rolling, sun-kissed hills, radiated old-world charm and timeless grace. The lush gardens, bursting with vibrant blooms and the heady scent of jasmine and rosemary, were a stark contrast to the inner turmoil I felt. I stepped out of the limousine, my heart pounding in my ears, and felt every curious gaze upon me as I made my way toward the entrance. Every whispered greeting, every soft smile seemed to both celebrate my beauty and remind me of the expectations I was meant to fulfill. I tried to focus on the joyful scene, the soft laughter, the clinking of glasses, the gentle hum of conversations. But I could not escape the thought of one person who loomed like a dark cloud over the day. Alessia Moretti, Matteo Rivera's formidable mother. Ever since Matteo had introduced me to his family 2 years ago, Alessia's disapproving glances and icy remarks had haunted me. In her eyes, I was nothing more than a humble schoolteacher, unrefined, ordinary, and not at all worthy of her precious son. I had tried to ignore her disdain, to convince myself that love could overcome all obstacles. But now, as I stood before the villa's imposing entrance, I felt the weight of her silent judgment like a physical blow. Inside, the atmosphere was a delicate balance of celebration and unspoken tension. I mingled with friends and family, exchanging heartfelt hugs and congratulations. Yet every time I caught a glimpse of Alessia's stern gaze, my stomach twisted. Matteo, my beloved fiancé, was my anchor through it all. His warm, reassuring smile and tender touches soothed me even as I wrestled with the anxiety that had taken root deep within me. I knew he loved me, yet I also sensed that his mother's influence loomed large over his every thought. The ceremony was to be held in the intimate chapel on the estate grounds, a small, sacred space that promised a close, personal moment between two souls. My father led me down a long, flower-lined corridor, his hand steady on my elbow as I tried to calm the jittery beating of my heart. With every step, I whispered silent prayers, hoping that somehow, in the midst of all the swirling emotions, I would find strength. I entered the chapel, where the soft strains of a lone violin set the tone for a sacred rite. Matteo was waiting at the altar, his eyes locked onto mine with a promise of unwavering love. I felt a fleeting surge of hope, a tender belief that in that moment, nothing could ever harm us. Our vows were exchanged in hushed, trembling voices, a beautiful, fragile pledge of forever. I recited words of love and commitment, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to hold its breath. As our lips met in a kiss that sealed our union, I allowed myself to believe, if only for a heartbeat, that everything was as it should be. But then, as if summoned by a cruel twist of fate, reality began to intrude. After the ceremony, as we emerged from the chapel into a shower of rose petals and the gentle applause of our guests, the beauty of the day felt suddenly fragile. The reception was held in the villa's vast, enchanted gardens, a wonderland of white tents, soft fairy lights, and long banquet tables adorned with delicate centerpieces. Laughter and joyful conversation mingled with the clink of glasses, and for a time, I let myself be carried away by the festive spirit. Matteo's hand remained a constant comfort in mine, a silent reminder of the love that bound us. Yet, even as I basked in the warmth of celebration, a chill lurked just beyond my field of vision. It was then that Alessia rose. With deliberate grace, she stood from her seat at the far end of the banquet hall. The room fell into a hushed expectancy as she lifted her crystal glass, her gaze never leaving mine. "Dear friends and family," she began, her voice smooth and crystalline but edged with an unmistakable coldness. "We are gathered here to celebrate the union of my dear son Matteo and his radiant bride, Livia. However, before we raise our glasses to this beautiful new beginning, I must ask a small favor of our lovely bride." A ripple of curiosity ran through the crowd. My heart pounded in my ears as Alessia continued, "Livia, I have heard that you possess a truly beautiful voice. Would you do us the honor of singing a song without any musical accompaniment, so that we may all witness the pure, unadorned beauty of your heart's expression?" The words hit me like a jolt. My vision swam as the murmurs of the guests rose, a blend of shock, pity, and hidden expectation. Matteo's eyes widened, his hand tightening around mine in silent protest. I felt every eye in that room pierce me, their collective gaze a weight too heavy to bear. I remembered the countless times I had endured Alicia's subtle barbs, her dismissive glances, her whispered insults suggesting that I was unworthy of her son's love. Now, on what should have been the happiest day of my life, she sought to expose me, to strip away every semblance of dignity by forcing me to sing before them all. For a long, agonizing moment, I stood paralyzed, my heart hammered, and every memory of past humiliations surged forward. I recalled every discouraging word, every sideways look that had made me feel small and inadequate. The thought of being forced to bare my soul through song, without even the aid of music, felt like a public trial, a final attempt to reduce me to nothing more than an object of scorn. But in that painful silence, a spark ignited within me, a deep, defiant flame fueled by years of hidden strength and quiet determination. I looked slowly around the room, meeting Matteo's pleading eyes. His silent support gave me the courage to speak, to claim the very essence of who I was. "Alessia," I said, my voice trembling but clear, "I will sing." The challenge was accepted with a raw vulnerability that seemed to suspend time. I stepped forward, every nerve alight with both terror and defiant hope. I closed my eyes, inhaling deeply as if to gather all the courage the world had ever given me. I remembered the secret hours spent practicing songs in the quiet of night, the gentle encouragement of my late father who once told me that true beauty was found in one's authentic voice. And then, with a voice that began soft and tentative, I began to sing. At first, my tone was little more than a fragile murmur, a whisper against the oppressive silence. But as the words flowed, so too did the emotions that had been locked away for too long. I sang an ancient ballad passed down through generations, a haunting melody of love lost, of hope reborn, and of the unyielding power of the human spirit to rise above adversity. Every note was imbued with the pain of every slight and every whispered criticism I had endured, yet also with the promise of renewal. I poured my heart out into that ballad, letting it carry every tear, every forgotten dream, every quiet defiance that had fueled my journey thus far. The transformation was almost instantaneous. With every rising note, I felt as though a dam had burst within me, releasing all the pent-up emotion that had once threatened to consume me. My voice grew stronger, clearer, until it filled the vast, elegant space of the hall with a sound that was both raw and breathtakingly beautiful. I could see Matteo's eyes glistening with unshed tears of pride, and I even detected a flicker of something in Alessia's expression. Was it surprise? Perhaps a reluctant admiration? For a few transcendent moments, it seemed as if the room recognized the truth of my soul, that my voice, my very essence, was a treasure too powerful to be confined or silenced. When the final note faded into an almost sacred silence, the impact was overwhelming. There, in that charged, vulnerable space, I stood exposed yet unbowed, every heart present, every tear in every eye, attesting to the power of what I had just shared. Slowly, a thunderous applause rose from the crowd, a flood of clapping, cheering, and even quiet, tearful acknowledgments that washed over me like a benediction. Matteo rushed forward, enveloping me in a warm embrace. His whispered, "You were extraordinary." "Livia," echoing in my ears like a promise of better tomorrows. For a while, the memory of that moment shone like a beacon, a reminder that even when the world sought to break me down, I could rise again, stronger, bolder, and utterly unashamed of who I was. Yet, even as the celebration resumed and the laughter of our guests once again filled the air, the sting of that challenge, the raw ache of vulnerability, lingered like a bittersweet aftertaste. I knew that while my voice had triumphed in that defining moment, the road ahead would be fraught with shadows, the lingering disapproval of Alessia, the challenges of reconciling the woman I had become with the expectations imposed upon me by others, and the quiet, sometimes crushing pressure of having bared my soul for the world to see. In the days that followed, I found solace in solitude and in the gentle rituals of healing. I retreated to a quiet corner of the villa each evening, sitting by the window with a journal in hand, pouring out every raw emotion, every flicker of sorrow, every surge of hope onto its blank pages. I wrote about the pain of humiliation, the triumph of reclaiming my voice, and the bittersweet beauty of that transformative moment. Slowly, as I read my words back to myself, I began to see that my vulnerability was not a weakness but a wellspring of strength, a source of unyielding power that could help me and others rise above the scars of the past. My blog, Unchained Melodies, which I launched in the wake of that unforgettable day, blossomed into a community of kindred souls. Messages poured in from strangers and friends alike, each sharing their own stories of hurt and redemption. They wrote of battles fought in silence, of voices smothered by fear, and of the liberating, transformative power of speaking one's truth. Through these exchanges, I learned that I was not alone, that our shared pain could become the bridge to healing and hope. Every message, every heartfelt comment, fueled me with the conviction that our scars were not marks of shame, but symbols of our resilience. Matteo remained my unwavering pillar through it all. In moments of quiet introspection, when doubt threatened to creep back into my heart, he would hold me close and whisper words of love and reassurance. "Livia, your voice has changed everything," he would say softly, tracing gentle circles on my back. "You are a wonder, a beacon of strength and authenticity. I love you for every part of who you are, and nothing will ever change that." His support, constant and tender, helped me understand that my journey, though marred by pain, was also filled with the possibility of endless new beginnings. As autumn gave way to winter, our lives gradually settled into a new, hopeful rhythm. I resumed taking voice lessons, not with the aim of launching a professional singing career, but to nurture the passion that had been awakened on that fateful wedding day. Each lesson was a reminder that my voice, once silenced by fear and doubt, now soared with its own unfiltered power. I began performing at small local events, sharing my songs with audiences who, like me, had known the sting of rejection and the joy of reclaiming their truths. Each performance, each tearful applause, was a step further in my journey toward self-acceptance and creative freedom. Then, one crisp winter morning, as I sat by the window of our newly renovated apartment in Florence, its walls a blend of modern art and cherished relics of my past, I received an invitation that would redefine my future. A prestigious music and arts festival was scheduled to take place in the city, and I was asked to perform a solo set on its grand stage. The invitation, printed on elegant stationery and sealed with a wax stamp, filled me with a cocktail of terror and exhilaration. Could I bare my soul before a vast audience? Was I ready to share the raw, unguarded truth of my journey? After many sleepless nights filled with both fear and fervent hope, Matteo's gentle encouragement and the resolute support of my newfound community finally steeled me to say, yes. The day of the performance arrived, and as I stepped onto the stage at the Gran Teatro della Luna, the bright lights seemed to momentarily blind me. The audience was vast and expectant, their silence a tangible presence that pressed in on every nerve in my body. I closed my eyes, took a deep, shuddering breath, and allowed every memory, from the bitter sting of Alessia's challenge to the triumphant echo of my wedding performance, to flood my mind. Then, I began to sing. I chose to perform the very ballad I'd once sung on that fateful day. A haunting, ancient melody of love, loss, and the indomitable power of hope. My voice, at first tentative and trembling, soon grew in strength, resonating with every emotion I had ever felt. I poured out my heart with every note, transforming pain into poetry and vulnerability into a defiant song of survival. The acoustics of the hall carried my voice to every corner, and as I sang, I felt as though I were laying bare the very essence of my soul, a soul that had been scarred by betrayal but had never truly lost its light. When the final note faded into a profound silence, a moment stretched out, heavy with emotion, and then, as if the weight of the world had been lifted from our shoulders, the auditorium erupted in applause. I saw Matteo's eyes glistening with tears of pride and joy. I saw faces in the crowd, strangers, friends, and even a few former skeptics, rise in a standing ovation that affirmed my very being. In that overwhelming moment, I realized that I had not only reclaimed my voice but had transformed it into a powerful instrument of healing, a force that could mend broken hearts and light the path for others still lost in the darkness. In the weeks and months that followed, my life settled into a vibrant new rhythm. I continued to nurture unchained melodies, my blog that chronicled every step of my journey from humiliation to triumph. I organized intimate gatherings where survivors and dreamers came together to share their stories and celebrate the beauty of vulnerability. These meetings, held in cozy cafes and quiet gardens throughout Florence, became sanctuaries of healing, a place where every tear was a testament to resilience and every smile a promise of new beginnings. Matteo and I began to plan our future with a clarity and purpose that had eluded us for so long. Though the shadow of Alessia's disapproval still lingered in subtle ways, I learned to rise above it. I discovered that true strength came not from trying to please everyone, but from embracing who I truly was. In time, even Alessia's cold glances softened, if only just, revealing that perhaps, beneath the layers of prejudice, there was a hint of acceptance waiting to bloom. I resumed my voice lessons, not to pursue fame, but to explore the depths of my passion and to reclaim a part of me that I had long hidden. I began performing at small local events and even collaborated with a few independent artists to create new music that spoke of our shared struggles and the beauty of overcoming them. Each note, each lyric, was a reaffirmation that I was no longer the timid, unappreciated bride of yesterday. I was a woman reborn from heartbreak, with a voice that was both a weapon and a balm, a declaration that I would no longer be silenced. Then came an invitation that truly changed everything, a chance to record a debut album. The offer came from a renowned local music producer who had been following my blog and attending my performances. He believed that my story, my raw and honest voice, had the power to touch hearts far beyond the intimate gatherings of Florence. With Matteo's gentle urging and the encouragement of my newfound community, I agreed. Over the following months, I poured every ounce of emotion, every tear, every smile, every quiet moment of defiance into the album titled Rising from the Ashes. When it was finally released, the response was overwhelming. Reviews praised its raw honesty and soul-stirring melodies, and listeners from across Europe reached out to share how my songs had helped them find hope in their own darkness. Every day became a celebration of newfound freedom. I spent mornings writing in my journal by the soft light of dawn, evenings practicing my songs, and weekends hosting support group meetings at local cafes. I discovered that my pain was not a chain to hold me down but a source of strength. A reminder that from the deepest wounds, the most beautiful transformations could emerge. One crisp winter evening, as Matteo and I sat on the balcony of our modest apartment overlooking the frosted streets of Florence, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The memory of that fateful wedding day, of Alessia's cruel challenge and the subsequent moment when I bared my soul with a song, remained etched in my heart. But it no longer stung as it once had. Instead, it had become the foundation of my strength, a reminder that I was capable of rising from even the most bitter heartbreak. Matteo held my hand and whispered, "Livia, your voice has given us all a new beginning. No matter what the future holds, you have shown the world that true beauty lies in embracing your truth." I smiled, feeling the warmth of his love and the quiet assurance that I was no longer alone. I continued to build my life, my art, and my community with a determination that only grew stronger with each passing day. I launched a series of workshops, The Harmony of Healing, designed to help others find their voices, to transform their pain into creativity, and to celebrate the indomitable human spirit. These workshops, held in small, sunlit rooms and quiet courtyards, became a safe haven for those who had once felt silenced by their own sorrows. In sharing our stories, we discovered that every scar was a testament to survival, and every note of a song could mend even the deepest wounds. By the time spring unfurled its blossoms across Florence, my life had taken on a new, luminous rhythm. I continued to perform regularly, my songs resonating in venues both large and small. My album, Rising from the Ashes, became a quiet anthem for those who believed in second chances. And my blog, Unchained Melodies, blossomed into a vibrant community of survivors and dreamers from all over the world. One memorable day, as I walked along the Arno River with Matteo, I realized that my journey had transformed me in ways I could hardly have imagined. I was no longer the frightened bride who had once stood on a stage, terrified of exposing her true self. I was a woman who had reclaimed her identity with every breath, every note, every word that I sang. The pain of the past still echoed softly in my heart, but it was now interwoven with hope and the promise of new beginnings. In time, even Alessia's stance shifted ever so slightly. At a family dinner several months later, after much unspoken tension had eased into tentative conversation, Alessia remarked quietly, "Livia, you surprised us all tonight. Perhaps I misjudged you." Her words, though few, carried a fragile note of acceptance that I had long yearned for. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was enough to remind me that sometimes, even the coldest hearts can warm with understanding over time. Now, as I sit in the quiet of my sunlit apartment, a space filled with art, music, and mementos of both loss and triumph, I reflect on the journey that has brought me here. My story, from that heartbreaking wedding day to the moment I reclaimed my voice on a grand stage, is a testament to the power of vulnerability and the resilience of the human spirit. Every tear, every scar, every note I sang has become a part of the symphony of my life, a melody that I will carry with me forever. This is my truth, that even when the world tries to silence you with cruelty and humiliation, your voice, your unique, unyielding voice can rise above the darkness. I share my story not to seek pity, but to ignite a spark of hope in anyone who has ever felt diminished or cast aside. We all have the power to transform our deepest wounds into the fuel for a brilliant new beginning. I am Livia Santoro, a survivor, a singer, and a woman who refuses to be defined by the expectations of others. My heart, once heavy with sorrow, now beats with the promise of endless possibility. And my song, once stifled by fear, now soars with the brilliance of a phoenix rising from the ashes. As the stars glitter above the Tuscan sky and the gentle hum of life carries on beneath, I step forward into tomorrow with my head held high and my voice echoing with unbreakable strength. Every challenge, every moment of despair, has led me to this point, a point where I can finally embrace who I am, share my truth, and help others do the same. This is my story, a story of heartbreak transformed into hope, of betrayal transmuted into art, and of a woman who found her salvation in her own song. And as I continue to write, sing, and live boldly, I know that my journey is only just beginning. No matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come, and with it, the promise of a new, unyielding day.